Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the RENNSPORT community events here from Spa-Franchorchamps. And what a way to begin this session of qualifying. But as you can see, we will drive the Porsche Cup car, which we haven't raced in quite a while, I think. For 2 races, 2 sprint races. And we have quite a big grid here today, actually, with lots of familiar names, some returning names as well, so it will be quite interesting. But I won't get you through this evening on my own, because I am joined by the lovely Tim Ireland once more.
Oh, Lino, how are you?
I mean, I'm excited for this race.
Yeah,
Cup car, I think, always provided pretty action-packed races. We have some very beautiful looking cars on track in the hands of Joachim Thunder and Dominic Ladler.
yeah, we've got a couple of liveries from the PECD. I can never remember how that was spelled.
PECCD.
I couldn't remember if it was 2 E's or 2 C's.
Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Deutschland.
Fair enough.
Well, it's easier as a German, I guess. But yeah, as said, currently in qualifying. So we're waiting for the people to get their lap times in, currently on the out lap. So with this amount of cars on track, with the new penalty system in place, and with damage enabled nonetheless, I think we will see a bit of a different race as well to what we've usually seen the last couple of weeks. What do you expect from today, Tim?
It's there are a few curveballs thrown. We've got 15 drivers on track, like you said. Spa turn 1, always interesting. And yeah, not only damage, but this time we have contact penalties turned on, so hopefully it'll all go fairly smoothly at the beginning.
I mean,
and yeah, I think we could be in for some good racing.
I mean, we've got again Joachim Thunder and Dominic Ladler in this race, which are very proven in this machinery, I'd say. We've also got some returning names, let's say, because we have Raul Kenshi, who hasn't been with us for quite some time, but who watched the first few RENNSPORT community events. There is Raul Kenshi Hase. Might be a familiar name to those people, since he was, I think, one of the first active members within RENNSPORT in the closed beta days back then. And it's very lovely to see him back. I mean, you've got some good connections to him as well, I guess, from RWL.
Yeah, he used to race in RWL at the beginning, and he's been a fairly decent supporter of my RWL series. So yeah, he's a good guy, and he knows how to handle a car.
I mean, some other interesting things about this race is that we have somebody new with a lot of rating in. If I can find him. Here's Dominic Ladler in the, I think it's Amethyst, if I'm not mistaken. Might be wrong, but I think it's Amethyst.
Dominic Ladler is in the Ruby Star. Joachim Thunder is in Irish Green.
I mean, I know who you are rooting for then, I guess.
But I'm not actually Irish.
Yeah, but your last name is. However, it will be quite interesting, I think, in terms of different drivers, how it will play out. Also, the likes of Jason Kezar in this race.
He's probably hoping you don't show his car too much, because it is missing a few bits of bodywork right now.
Well, luckily for him, it's only qualifying. I mean, we've seen it yesterday, didn't we? Even though arguably we had less cars. quite a lot less cars. But overall, I mean, we've seen that the qualifying lap doesn't always matter too much.
No. But with that said, please no Turn 1 heroes. We don't need anyone trying to nick or nunning off it. And failing.
So. Oh, big hit into the wall for Remo Fedele. I think he was with us for an RCL, if I remember that correctly.
Yeah, his name rings a bell.
Here comes Jason Kazar. I mean, as some people didn't really get a lap in, might be the chance for some usually slower drivers to still get a lap time in. Bit of a drift there for Flotzinger.
The Porsche Cup is still on quite an old tyre model compared to the GT3s and the GT4s, so it can be a bit unpredictable at times compared to the newer tyres. I did one of the Porsche Cup races earlier on today, and it was lively in the rear end, shall we say, until you moved the brake bias a lot further forward.
Let's wait and see what the last few cars can do. And a bit early celebrations there. Maybe. But yeah, I think it could be a very interesting, as you have Dominic Lala on the front row alongside Joachim Thunder, Raoul Hase and Breuning on the second row. And then it's Klose and Benjamin. So yeah, I mean, we have basically the first row being the Porsche Cup specialists, the second row being the veterans in a way, or the proven talents, and third row then all new. So I'm not quite sure what we can expect in this race.
No, the first race will be a bit of a test bed for what happens. I think hopefully by the second race, people will have settled down a little bit more from running league events. The first race of any league is always a bit hectic. And although the RCE's been going on for a long time, there are some new guys here, and with it being a 2-race format, people might be a bit eager in the first race, shall we say? But hopefully the cooler heads prevail, and it's a nice, safe start for everybody.
Very much so. Joshua Luna is one of the guys I'm interested to see what he will be able to do, because he has quite a high RENNSPORT rating. Doesn't do qualifying as it seems, but it will be quite interesting to see what he can put onto the track. Maybe do a bit of catch up in the races. But we are now getting ready for the first race. I mean, yesterday we had 2 cars and still a photo finish. If we will see a repeat of that kind of finish today remains to be seen, but it will be quite interesting. Of course, again with a rolling start.
If we had a photo finish with 2 cars, then surely with 15 cars, it's going to be even closer, right? That's how maths works.
Correct. The chances are high. I mean, since we nowadays know that doing predictions isn't necessarily a good idea.
Yeah.
Maybe you should not do that. But it certainly will be interesting seeing 15 Porsche Cup cars going up to Eau Rouge.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't be surprising to see a bit of chaos unfold. But overall, as we now get ready for the start. And there we have them lining up. Bit of chaos here on the start. But we go racing in Spa. And Joachim Thunder with a good start. We ignore that Porsche up front for now, because it won't be part of this for real. Oh, and one of the cars getting very loose there, exiting turn 1. Joachim Thunder in front of, I believe that's Bräuninger, who goes very wide in the dirty air. Having to give way to Dominik Ladler. And now under pressure from, I think that might be Raoul Haase, and indeed it is. Around the outside into Le Com. But is Joachim Thunder leading from Dominik Ladler? See how it goes on further down. Andreas Klose was able to keep the position. Jason Kizar gained a position. Benjamin lost a few, but the car's looking fine so far.
Yeah, sorry, I got a bit distracted by the trying to keep track of the cars and how everyone was driving there for a minute. Yeah, it seems like generally fairly clean up front. We've got the 3 front runners with Thunder, Ladler and Haas.
I expect the first race to be something around 7 laps, so very sprint type of race in that way.
Yes.
So the start doesn't matter quite a lot, and the 1.5 second gap between Thunder and Ladler is a very strong gap for the German, who is also getting under pressure from Raoul Haase, I have the feeling. Oh, and just as I say that, Raoul Haase is looping it around and into the wall, exiting the bus stop.
Yeah, just getting a little bit onto the painted side there with the hot rear tyres. It can be difficult to hold on.
It is indeed quite difficult to put the power down in this car. Since
they don't have TC either, so it's, yeah. They're a powerful car with not a lot of downforce and no TC.
I mean, it does have quite a decent amount of downforce in itself, but not at lower speeds. Can be sure of that. But yeah, I mean, the version we have here in RENNSPORT is quite generous in the way that it has ABS. But yeah, getting on the throttle still, you have to find a good balance to do it. It's Jason Kizar dives in a bit deep into Le Com. But the race is far from over. But who profited so far of the mistakes in front is Andreas Klose, because he's up in 4th. And of course, your finishing position of race 1 will determine your starting position for race 2 as well, which is 20 minutes, so a bit longer.
Just to kind of inform you a little bit about the penalty situation right now, where everybody seems to be clean except for Remo Fidele, who's got a 10-second penalty for exceeding 15 incident points.
You can see some damage to the right-hand side door and the right rear bumper. So he definitely had some fighting to do. Front left of the car also battered a bit. The way the new penalty system of course works is you have a set amount of incident points for off tracks and collisions. once you exceed 15 penalty points in a 15-minute race, which this one is, you will get a time penalty, and at 20 incident points you will be black flagged. But to get to that point you still have to do quite some stuff. So he definitely has to watch out to not get into too much trouble for the remaining 10 minutes of this race. Car behind Dominic Lala is a lap car who just came out of the pits. Not quite sure who it was.
I believe he had a drive-through for speeding in the pit lane, so I think he might have started from the pits.
Could also well be, but I can't find him on the map at the moment.
We've got a little bit of a spaced out trio forming in the mid-pack here between Jason Kazar, Raul Haas and Andreas Kloss, who have all got just over a second between them. But I think that if Raul Haas can start battling with Andreas Kloss, that'll soon close up to be a bit of a three-way fight for fourth place.
I'm surprised Raul Haas can still keep up the pace this well. I mean, he has quite some damage to the front end of his car, and if you've driven this car, you know it's understeery through higher speed turns. It just doesn't have the front end downforce compared to the rear, which of course has this huge rear wing. And with even more damage to the front, you will be cooking your front tires at some point. Luckily for him, this race isn't too long, but on the other hand, he's looking very racy today.
He is, yeah. And at the back at the front of the race, Dominic Ladler putting in purple sector after purple sector right now, and he's caught right up to Joachim Thunder.
And actually very well here, the lift through Blanchimont. Oh, but Lala too hard on the throttle.
It was well held though. And they're starting to lap drivers now.
Seems to be the 12 car of...
Yep.
we talked about it before the stream. We were a bit uncertain about the pronunciation, so I hope I won't completely butcher it, but Ikikiverti, I hope. Well, from Russia. Giving way to both of them, very fair and square. But Dominic Lala, due to his mistake, losing 2.2 seconds, or rather 1.4, but the gap increasing to 2.2. And it won't have done his rear tires any good.
Andreas Kloss just having a bit of a moment there.
I was wondering, in front of Raul Haas, there wasn't really any other car.
No, he's got a fair way to go before Breuninger.
So Andreas Klose, unfortunately, losing the great progression he made during this race, but still in 6th. And I mean, he lost the car through Rouge or Radeon, I think rather Rouge if you come to a stop in Radeon.
Yeah.
But barely having any damage, I think that is something that you can live with.
Yeah, he managed to keep it out of the wall, which is fairly impressive at that corner. We've all seen what that corner can do to a race car.
But now Jason Kazar also very fast. I mean, he was not going to take part today until we convinced him, kind of. But he's looking good here. He's looking really good.
Yeah, I'm not going to say anything, so I'm going to curse him.
Yeah, I already
He's
did
driving.
that, so you shouldn't.
his driving car. I think going with our seems to be now standard moderator humility of going into a race saying they're going to do terrible and not be racy, and then pulling the performance out of the bag.
I mean, especially for him running 5th in this race. Because from what I know, Jason really doesn't get along with these cup cars too well. Usually he's more in the GT4, GT3 and front wheel drive section at home, to what I know. But he's holding a very good position at the moment, and he's just looking to improve that. Should have 2 laps left to go after this one. And with 7/10 separating Thunder and Lala up front. If Lala can keep it together through the bus stop this time around, I think this could be a very close finish for race 1. Of course, we will have another one just after this. But you can also see that once Lala gets into a certain distance of Thunder through the faster turns, such as Puon just now, he does get quite loose.
Yeah, he's going to start getting into a bit of the dirty air. And I know these cars have some aero. They don't have a lot of aero, but they have some, and it gets affected by that dirty air as it starts to wash over the car behind. It does ruin your downforce a bit and make it a bit less predictable.
Gets a bit closer to the inside of Flushing more than Thunder does. Will he wait for the final lap, or will he try to just get past whenever the opportunity arises? Oh,
they
again.
Crossed the line with about 3 minutes to go, so they will have 2 laps after this, I think.
Yeah. Of course, you kind of have to think about, if I overtake now, especially out of Rouge, I might be in a very vulnerable position on the last lap, but if you have the confidence that you can keep the other car behind, I think you will still go for it. And Lala and Thunder, they both know it.
Yep.
And I think here goes Lala to the outside, keeps it in the middle of the track to limit Thunder's options. Can he get the car stopped in time? Can Thunder maybe get back at him? And a fantastic move here by Dominic Ladler.
It was a great move. I thought for a minute he wasn't going to get it pulled up there at the end, Kemmel straight, but he managed to hold on to the back end of the car nicely.
Yeah, he really found a fine balance there. Of course, Thunder playing with it very well, playing along very well. Also trying to get the cutback, but at some point in Le Combe, it's very hard to come back, since the next turn is again a right-hander. So, yeah, he now has to just stay in slipstream and hope for him to have such opportunity on the last lap. And they both, I think, are pretty equal on pace, because now it's Thunder slowly gaining on Ladler. Fun fact about Browning, I'm not sure if I've mentioned it before in the stream, but he also originally doesn't want to race here today, but well, he's sitting in 3rd in a podium position.
Yeah, he's doing very well. If you're not used to this machinery, it can be very tricky to handle. But he seems to be making good headway in this first race. For the battle that was happening further down the field, Jason Kazar has dropped off a bit from behind from Royal House.
Sandra McLaren with the way better exit out of the bus stop. course, we hope to see you soon as well. Back online, Alejo.
Joachim Thunder seems to be just losing contention a bit with Dominic Ladler here. He's dropped back a little bit. He's not going to get as much of a slipstream down Kemmel Straight this time.
Yeah, I know, Aliza, but we really much miss you from especially the RCL races. So
yeah, we do.
We're looking forward to see you back on track. Maybe also with a bit more luck this time around than last time. But I think Dominic Ladler has played it very well on tires in the beginning of the race as well. I think that might have been possibly why we've seen him, let's say, rather relaxed and not really pushy. Because as you mentioned before in the stream with the older time model that these cars have, they do heat up quite rapidly if you drive them to the limit. But if you know roundabout when that happens, I think it usually is 1.5 or 2 laps of Spa. You know when you can start pushing for the tires to last to the end. But Joachim Thunder with a very good run as it seems. But will he be close enough to try anything? Maybe if Ladler gets a bit loose in or out of the bus stop. Taking as much risk as possible through Blanchimont. But I don't think that Thunder is close enough.
No, it's not quite got up to him enough to make a move there.
It will be Dominic Ladler leading the pair home. P2 goes to Joachim Thunder and P3. If he can keep it together through the bus stop, it will be Enrico Breuniger. After yesterday's victory, finds himself on the podium.
We've got the top two cars posing for the camera at the other side of the track.
That's very nice. I think I will send that to Damo for some community post material. Raul Hase comes in fourth with a lot of damage sustained in the earlier portions of this race, but still. Great effort. Andreas Klose, I think he can be confident for race 2. After that start of race 1.
Yeah, for sure. He had a great start and it went pretty well.
Unfortunately, the list of DNFs is a bit bigger this time around, but it is a very challenging car on one of the most challenging racetracks that's left in the world. So, not too surprised in that regard. Yeah. But
we don't do many kind of double header race events, so I did put a reminder out before the race started that there would be 2 race sessions, but I'm not sure everybody has decided to hang around for the second one. We'll see.
We will see. But while we do that, let's take a look at next week's schedule and the next RCE. Because in 2 weeks we will be racing the GT4s at Hockenheim with the new day-night cycle. Joachim Thunder might not quite like this, but I'm very much looking forward to it. Since the day-night cycle on Hockenheim, I think it was pretty much the last track that didn't have it yet, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm trying to think what other ones haven't, and I'm not sure.
I think the only other left is the beta track.
Yeah, which I don't think anyone's particularly clamoring for that to have a day-night cycle.
Very much so. But yeah, other than that, the Praga series returns at Quest, which is apparently very much liked by the community, and some other fan favorites, but we can hear the engines in the background. That means it's time to go racing for the second time. This time it's Dominik Ladler leading the pair. And we go racing for the second time here in Spa. It's a much better start this time around overall. As we go down into turn 1, everybody gets it stopped in time. Dominik Ladler pinned to the inside by Joachim Thanner on the outside. One car with a tire into the gravel exiting turn 1. But I think it's Dominik Ladler who could prove himself against Joachim Thanner into Rouge.
A few track limits liberties there, but...
Oh, somebody's in the wall. I think that's Bräuniger.
Yeah, he is dropped way back now, so I'm assuming it's him.
I mean, he struggled a bit in the first race through there as well. Flötzinger now goes side by side with the 13 car of Fedele.
It can be a bit of a shock to your system when you've spent the last race warming your tyres up and getting used to warm tyres, and then you come into a completely cold set all over again.
Very, very close racing here in the mid-pack. Side by side into Puhon. Oh, and big hit there for Fedele as well, who was an absolute bystander in that way, in that incident. I think Jason Kizawa was the other car involved.
Good news for Bräuniger there, who's now back with a bunch of cars and having a bit of a battle.
Talking about battles, up front Joachim Thanner immediately trying to return the favor of last race. Rollhase looking onto the battle from behind. Oh, Bräuniger now side by side with Flötzinger. Two Germans. Oh, and wait. That was a bit odd there.
Yeah. Bit of a funny moment going on.
But these two are definitely having a blast. Probably reminds them of times, I mean, close to a year ago, I think. I think the PECCD started in December of 23 or January of 24. Definitely well within the winter last time.
Yeah, I completely missed that one, I've got to admit.
You missed a lot of action, that's for certain.
I missed, yeah.
Jason Kazars closing in on Andreas Klose for P4, who again just kept it out of trouble and moved up the field that way. And you can see that is a strategy that definitely works very well.
We've said it many times before, and I'm sure we'll say it again, that just keeping your nose clean can be one of the most important things in these races. Some nice drifting action there by Joachim Thunder in the background.
Question is simply for these two, because I think still do know the car very well. It hasn't changed all that much since they competed with them in the esports series. How do they go about their tires? What is the strategy behind it?
Yeah, they're going to be casting their mind back to some of the older tyre builds like this one and trying to remember how to best deal with them as the race continues. They do, like you were saying before, they do heat up quite quickly and they take a while to cool down. So once they get hot, you have to take it easy for a little bit afterwards, just to make sure they're down to a nice safe temperature.
I mean, you can be lucky with Spa being quite gentle on the temperature on the tires at least, because you have those longer straights in between, so you are actually able to cool them down again. On other tracks it's much harder, but you have to really, I don't know really how to pronounce, because you don't have to completely lift off, but through corners like Puhon or Campus especially, which are third, fourth gear corners, you have to let it coast for so agonizingly long time to give the tires the time to cool down.
Yeah, you can feel it in the force feedback when they're getting hot and spongy. You start to lose response and they don't become as trying to think what the word would be.
You are from England, you should
responsive.
know.
It's Saturday. I don't think on Saturdays. They're not quite as responsive or as tactile through the force feedback when they're warm, and it becomes a lot more difficult to figure out what your car is doing underneath you. It's pretty disorientating when it happens.
Yeah, they drive a bit like on ice, and especially with the rear axle on this car, because it is a very tail-heavy car. On the throttle especially, of the lower speed turns. As we've seen the previous race through bus stop with the likes of Ladler, Hase, and also on this race with, I think it was Joshua Lune that was spun around at the exit. You kind of lose the feedback the rear end gives you through the force feedback if the tires overheat, making them much harder to drive later on.
This race is a little bit longer than the last one. Still not long by any stretch of the imagination, but if you're overdriving your car all the time, it is going to start affecting your tires. Not just in getting hot, but also they will start to wear pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, the 5 minutes that are on top in this race compared to the previous race, they are, in terms of feel, much longer, because the car is arguably in a worse state usually than on, for example, lap 1. So makes them much more interesting, let's say it like that. Both for us and for the drivers, as Andreas Klose is now being caught up to by Remo Fedele, who's having a much better race than the first one.
Yeah, I think everyone's kind of settled into the Porsche Cup rhythm a bit more this race. There have been a few, if any of you have been out there playing on the multiplayer servers, we have had some Porsche Cup races at Spa running daily. So there was options to practice if you wanted to.
If you haven't noticed, there's always a server you can practice the combination for the RENNSPORT community events, RENNSPORT Community League, or RENNSPORT Founders League in the week that these events take place. isn't that
almost like we organize things.
Almost. But I like to believe in coincidences, so let's keep it at that. Here we go through Blanchiment. In the background you can actually see Breuninger closing in quite rapidly.
Yeah, this is going to become a three-way battle pretty quickly.
Fedele having a look down the inside. Breuninger trying to make use of it and having a good run out of turn. Having to avoid the closers. Just couldn't get the power down. Lost 2 positions in the process. Fedele up into 5th and Breuninger up into 6th. But what a reaction there by Breuninger to avoid the very slow car of closer.
Breuninger's got a good run down the Camel Straight here. Let's see if he can make anything of it.
To the inside. I think Fedele braked a tiny bit later actually. Now coming through this time around for Breuninger.
He has had good pace all race. He's just been a bit unlucky with incidents and cooking the tyres a little bit, but he seems to be settling down now.
Now with a good run out of Puhon. You won't really make a move into campus, but you can show yourself. So welcome the Melusius to the chat. We hope to see you back at some point as well. Maybe in the next hypercar race, since this is seemingly the class you two enjoy most. Oh, but Breuninger very off into Stavelo. Lost him quite significant amount of time. He still has, I think, 5 laps to make up for it. 4 laps, rather.
Yeah,
So it will be quite close, I think, this one.
That is a complicated, well, a difficult series of corners in these Porsche Cup cars because the left-hand tyres just keep warming up with the long right-hand turns.
And at some point they just give in and you break loose.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're overdriving the car, even a little bit constantly all the way through the corners, they just get warmer and warmer and warmer.
But Fedele also, just gotta mention it, he's having a good comeback. I mean, the first race, couldn't get to finish it. The second race, got caught out in a wreck that wasn't his fault at all, right? Couldn't do much to avoid it. But now he's running in P5 on a good pace. And I don't think that Breuninger is that much faster. I don't think it will be a walk by.
No, it's the difficult thing where you're just a little bit faster than someone else. And as long as that person understands where the overtaking places are and how to cover them off, it can be very difficult to get past.
Meanwhile, up front, Dominik Ladler having a 1.6 second lead to Dominik Ladler. But we've seen it the last race pretty much the other way around. I don't think that this is meaning anything between the two of them.
No, the gap between them keeps fluctuating a little bit, just as someone puts in a good lap and then maybe does a slightly worse one. The gap back to Thunder was 2 seconds, a couple of laps to go, and he seems to have been pushing hard, and he's made a bit of a comeback.
Oh, Fedele was off the track, exiting Stavelo, and Bronigas up into 4th. What happened to Jason Kezar? Because he was running 4th.
Jason Kezar had too many off tracks and got disqualified.
That is very unfortunate. I mean, you do get quite a lot of off tracks. I wonder what he was doing then. Maybe he will let us know in any of the chats.
Yeah, I saw him get the 10-second penalty for 15 points, and then after that, it just seemed to keep racking up, invalidated, and I was thinking, don't do it, Jason. Stay on the track.
Well, still sitting in 3rd is Raul Haase. I think we should implement or establish a meme with premature fireworks.
But I don't know if you're aware, in the UK we have a celebration, shall we say, every 5th of November about when Guy Fawkes tried to blow up the Houses of Parliament. And we celebrate this by burning effigies of him and setting off fireworks.
Very interesting trivia.
You're probably thinking, but Tim, it's nowhere near the 5th of November. That is very true. They start selling fireworks a lot earlier than that, and people just like to set them off.
Yeah, that I know from New Year's in Germany. So I guess it's also the case in pretty much every other country, but New Year's celebration doesn't just go on the final day of 2024 and beginning of 2025. No. It starts when the fireworks are on sale on any supermarket for €5.99 or something. So probably like beginning of December to end of January, because people buy too much and then have to burn it off at some point.
And around my house, there is quite a lot of open land, like playing fields and things like that. And specifically teenagers, if they can get hold of fireworks, they do like to just randomly set them off for the fun of it.
Well, let's get back to the important things of life, and that's watching digital cars go around a digital track while we just tell you what's going on the track. But currently the gap between Joachim Thorn and Dominik Lala is 1.5 seconds. We should definitely do a radio cast at some point. You know, like the old Le Mans radio and stuff. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, the gap between Thunder and Ladler is still fluctuating. It's down to 1.2 seconds now. And it does seem to kind of, within a kind of plus or minus a few tenths, it seems to go up and down, depending who's just had a good lap.
I mean, right now it seems like Joachim Thunder's really turning it up a notch, and since the next lap will be the final lap, maybe he's preparing for something. But ignoring the fight between the two, they've put 27 seconds on Raul Haase, 56 seconds on Breuninger. Granted, he had that spin in the first time through a Rouge, but still, I mean, in a 20-minute race, that averages to, let's say, 1.5 seconds a lap.
Something like that, yeah. They've had a good pace, for sure. Remo Fedele has managed to close into within a second of Enrico Breuninger as well, so a couple of people maybe trying to do a last-minute move for some glory.
Let's wait and see. The exit of the bus stop pretty much identical between Lala and Thunder. But again, 2/10 gain through Las Suas. Oh, and Breuninger around in Campus. Would be interesting
handed the 4th place to Fidello.
Be interesting to know if contact was part of it.
I can't see a contact on the penalty log, so I think it was just a lapse of concentration on Breininger's front there.
A gap once more at 1 second. But now sector 2, this is where Joachim Thander has been gaining the last lap. Oh, bit of oversteer there through no-name corner.
Some early celebratory drifting there from Joachim Thander, I think.
Seen it from Dennis Heinz a lot of times. Oh, Lala going very wide there. Didn't gain him anything, rather lost him quite a lot. I think if Thunder can get within 5/10 at the exit of Stavelo, he might have a shot.
Yeah. Yeah, he needs to creep up the gap just a little bit, just to increase the effect of the slipstream he'll get.
I think he's too far away.
Yeah, I think so. And their exits were about the same, so the gap's holding.
Unless Dominic Lala does a mistake out of the bus stop. Oh, but Joachim Thander with a big drift exiting bus stop this time around. But Dominic Lala once again victorious over Joachim Thander. But these two, they've definitely given it all. Both of them. Great showing by the two. And Raul Haase will finish out the podium. Might be a good feeling for him after coming back to the RCEs for quite some time.
Yeah, for sure. It was a good comeback. I know that the gap between him and the battle for first was probably bigger than he'd like, but it was a good showing in some tricky conditions.
Welcome back, Raul Haase. Hope to see you again. And we hope that this next won't be in half a year again. But I think it will be Remo Fedele coming home in 4th. And Breininger in 5th.
Yeah, Breininger obviously had a bit of a gravel incident there because his car's looking pretty clean. Ooh. Oh, why did I talk? Thoroughly apologise.
Through the last turn. At least he still knows how to celebrate. Here comes Andreas Klose, the last one to finish. But even for him, shout out to him for sticking with it. And I mean, he's still back to 6th place, I think, in both races. Should give his race a good bump.
He's crossed the finish line, so I can say that his car is also pretty clean. It's got a bit of a crumple in the back, but...
but that's about it. Well, I guess that this was it for today's race. But of course, the racing doesn't stop there. You can still enjoy the combinations we had this week for another 1.5 days. And next week, we will be back with RCL Round 5 at... I think it's Road Atlanta? Yeah, it is Road Atlanta. And yeah, it will be very interesting. I think Road Atlanta, we've said it every single time that Road Atlanta was up on the schedule, that it will be very interesting. And the last one, the 200 miles at Road Atlanta, definitely didn't disappoint in that way, did it?
No, that was for sure. It was a good race. I really enjoyed watching that one. It'll be interesting to see some Road Atlanta races with damage on and the contact penalties we'll be messing with. It can get a bit bumpy there.
Very much so. And I mean, Fun fact, because I think we didn't talk about it afterwards on stream, we actually foreshadowed the real Road Atlanta Petit Le Mans with the lights not being on and talks about disqualifications. We did
That
it
is
first.
true.
The Cadillac copied it. So, yeah, other than that, as said, the Praga R1 being back as a series, the GT4 series continuing. And in 2 weeks, we will have GT4s at Hockenheim for one race this time, but day-night cycle. So we hope to see you back. Until then, do you want to say something, some final words?
No, not really. It's been a good race. I've really enjoyed watching it. I liked the double header format. So more of that, please.
Well, enjoy the evening, have a good time, and until next time, goodbye.
Goodbye.